Carolina, which you learn this at the Tree Museum. And you hear from Harry Bubbins, who's got this great plan called No Child Left Inside. And he speaks for Brook Park, which is real near the concourse. And he's talking about getting kids to come to the park. And again, where they can practice his plan, which is called No Child Left Inside. And you hear this percussion group, Bamba Yo. And you hear this guy named Walter Houston, who's the CEO of Local Development Corporation of West Bronx. And they talk about maybe shutting the street down for a day near their tree and getting people out in the street and not getting hit by a car. You probably read in the papers today that a woman was killed by a car, I think yesterday, on the Grand Concourse because it's still really fast in the Grand Concourse. And you hear all these things, and people are, and you know, if you've read anything about the Tree Museum, it sounds so, you know, they say that trees, you know, trees are great for New York, and trees are great for the world, and they put it in the eco column or the green column, and they say, and you're going up there and you're thinking it's going to be all about trees, and you don't have to spend many cell phone minutes to realize that this is not just about trees. And so come with me further, although I swear we're going to end it soon. We come up, and I'm now at Fordham Road in the Grand Concourse, which is not quite, I don't think it's quite halfway. But I'm standing at this intersection, and I'm looking for the tree, and you can't find it. I mean, it's really hard to find the tree, because the intersection of Fordham Road has some big old bank buildings, an old theater up the way. It has what used to be older businesses that are now kind of staples and some chains, and then it has tons of bodegas and a bunch of discount stores, you know, 99-cent stores, and all these kinds of things. But you're standing up there, and you're looking for the tree, and you're not seeing it. And if you're me, you're seeing that you know, this is almost not about the trees at all. But you're seeing all these people walking all around you, and you're seeing so much, you know, for lack of a less mundane phrase, economic activity. You're seeing so much activity. You're seeing this human ecology. Okay, so I'm not stopping, I'm sorry, I'm gonna, but I have to tell you about the artist before we go into the sort of final galleries. And we're almost over, oh my God. The artist has had a problem, I shouldn't use that word, but it's clear, has had a problem with trees for a while, but it's a very good problem. And she was at the St. Louis Museum of Art in St. Louis, and she made a tree. She found a photo of a tree on the grounds, and they gave her a big room, and she took just stuff in the place, duct tape, ink, wires, plastic, put it all together and made this beautiful tree that has this huge canopy and has this huge root system. And you know, the great Thoreau quote that Emerson used to like to use all the time was, Emerson used to talk about, Emerson would say, yeah, Thoreau, tell him why I don't like Harvard. And Emerson would say, you know, they teach all the branches of knowledge. And then Thoreau would always say to Emerson's great delight, yes, all the branches and none of the roots. And so this is kind of what the Tree Museum is kind of getting you towards. You think you're looking for the canopy, and suddenly you're realizing that it's giving you something else about roots. But the other thing that she did was a show called Grand Bazaar in Mexico City. And she went there, and she just kind of roamed around the city. Her big thing is serendipity and letting conversations lead her to stuff, and just kind of mimeographing or Xeroxing small booklets and just making little drawings or sketches or notes and passing them out. But at Grand Bazaar, she decided not to have a show. So she went back to her hotel room every night, kind of made it into a factory, and saw things that were in the neighborhood and made them little objects, little pet toys. And then she just had a bazaar, and people came in and paid what they wanted or small prices. But it gave her a way to look at the local economy, and it gave a way for people to come in and kind of see her looking at the economy and talk and serendipity. And then she came to the Bronx, and there was the 100th anniversary of the concourse, and they invited her to come and propose an art piece to mark the 100th anniversary. And she kind of hung out on the Grand Concourse. I mean, she didn't have an office, she had a bench on the Grand Concourse. And she eventually met all these people, and then she thought, trees, clearly still working through trees, And then she assigned people to the trees. So you remember, I'm trying to point you to another gallery that we're not going into. There was a gallery, there was a show, there was an art project, and it might still be there, but it was downtown this summer at the Collect Pond Park, or Collect Pond Park. Anybody been to Collect Pond Park? A lot of hands? No? A couple of hands. Okay. Collect Pond Park. We saw the recreation of Collect Pond Park this morning in the Manhattan Project. So amazing, so beautiful. And we heard there was a mention of tanners coming down there. And this is the story of Collect Pond Park, that it was a good place, and then the tanners came in and no one could drink from it anymore. There was this beautiful art project down there. It was a sort of hexagonal plywood structure, and inside it they built a field. These two artists, Julie Farris and Sarah Wayland Smith, they called it a clearing in the streets. They planted native grasses. The walls inside this thing were painted sky blue. It bloomed in the middle of summer, these beautiful wildflowers. It was incredibly beautiful. I took some issue with it. I'm sorry, I feel bad about this, but I did. In the description of it, they talked about the Collect Pond. And they said, quote, Collect Pond Park was once a 60-foot deep freshwater pond. Misused and polluted in the 19th century, the pond had to be drained. The Collect Pond was used and it was polluted, but it wasn't just polluted, is what I want to say before I swear I'm trying to leave the Tree Museum. But I just want to say that it was used, but not just polluted. It was used by tanners as well as, most likely, other people in the area, other artisans. It was not misused, or it wasn't misused by the tanners. The tanners used it for their business, for their work. It's about utility. By the time the tanners got there, I would even argue, and I have no accreditation in anything, as you can tell, but I would argue that by the time the tanners got there, perhaps it was fading as a drinking water site anyway. But what I'm trying to say is that by emphasizing the loss to beauty over the loss of utility in what we call an environmental artwork, we run this risk of rejecting our own nature, which is to use the land, whether it be, hopefully not unwisely, but it's often we use it unwisely. But we're saying that we shouldn't use it when we get into those, sort of finger pointing to the past and saying they did it wrong. This project, this tree museum, which we're getting ready to leave, they're closing the museum now, and you can hear the guard coming after me. This museum does a kind of opposite thing. It takes us away from this aesthetic, this pure aesthetic beauty, art, nature as sort of beautiful, calming, step away from everything else nature. Now, I'm not saying that all